I'm going to go ahead and record this now, just while I'm thinking about it. You don't need a large military if you're not fighting another country. Like, it's a very complicated issue, but let's say the only other country in the world was Japan. We'll just say Japan, okay? Say there's United States, North America. We'll just say North America and Japan are the two countries in the world. No other countries exist, okay? There's no other land masses. There's just all of America and then all of Japan, okay? In North America, let's say there used to be three countries in North America. You had, North America, Central America, and South America. We'll just say that, okay? And North America took over Central America and South America by land. They used military forces on the land. Soldiers, tanks, some aircraft and stuff like that. You don't need a navy if you're taking over people on the land, right? So you don't have to worry about a navy. So maybe North America had 50 divisions of soldiers, infantrymen, 50 divisions of infantrymen, and they take over Central America, and then they have 100 divisions of infantrymen, and they take over South America. So they've eliminated those two countries. They rule those countries. It took land troops to take them because it's on land. You don't have to worry about the Navy. Maybe you can do a little bit of Navy where you go around and you hit a beach and you get behind them or whatever. You have some Air Force. But typically your military is designed depending upon what kind of enemy you're fighting. So you're fighting troops on the land, you're not going to have a large Navy because that's stupid. It makes no sense. The large Navy on the coast isn't going to help you in the middle of your country if they're invading you, right? So you have to have a large land force. Okay, so you've taken over Central America, you've taken over South America. Now you own the entire continent of North America. You own it all, right? So now your only enemy is Japan. Well, Japan doesn't have a land bridge to you. There's an ocean, and then they are an island. So now what do you do? Do you still have 100 divisions of soldiers? Of course not. You disband the soldiers, and you create a large navy. Because you need a navy. You still need some soldiers once you get there, but you have to get there first, because Japan has a navy too. So now you have a large navy, maybe 100 battleships, and you only have 4 divisions of troops. You see, the kind of military you have depends upon what your enemy is. So back here, at the start of the series, you had to have 1,000 battleships, 1,000 carriers. You had to have all this massive armada because you're fighting a empire, an alliance, who also has a large amount of battleships and aircraft carriers, etc. Right? So you have to have a large armada because they have a large armada. Well, now you own the entire universe. So you don't need the large armada anymore. That's kind of what I was getting at before. Now you have to have enough because like this fortress has an armada, 100 or, even if it's 1,000 battleships, whatever. They probably have like a couple hundred battleships. They have less than 1 million people. Okay, so let's say they have 200 battleships. You need to keep enough battleships that you have a massive numerical superiority of them. Okay, so you have 400 battleships on one side of the fortress and 400 battleships on the other side of the fortress. See, they have 200 inside. You got 400 on this side, you got 400 on this side. They can't do shit. You've got them outnumbered 4-1. Okay, so that's good. So you have that force there. That's 800 battleships. You only need like another 200 battleships for the rest of your entire empire. Because nobody else is going to build battleships without you being able to find out. You have people located in every solar system. If people in this solar system are suddenly building battleships, somebody's going to notice. And then you'll send what you have over there. You send your 200, hey man, what are you doing? Like, this isn't authorized. The fuck you doing? And you stomp them out, right? So nobody can build a force strong enough to overcome your 200 battleships. What you need is peacekeeping forces that can handle any kind of problem within each solar system. So you have your 200 battleships, you have some destroyers or something. Each solar system will have a few destroyers for whatever civilians mount a couple cannons on a couple of their yachts or whatever, and they try to create a little guerrilla navy. Your destroyers will take them out. They're better than anything you have. My point is, you don't need 10,000 battleships when you have no enemy. There is no enemy. There's nobody around. Like, you own the entire fucking universe. Like I said, you have enough to take care of the fortress. You have a couple hundred extra for whatever happens, and you disband the rest of it. It makes no sense to have a massive 10,000 ship armada anymore. You have no enemy. They would never do it. After World War II, the United States didn't keep their 40 Panzer divisions or whatever, like tank divisions. They didn't keep them. They disbanded most of them because they didn't need them anymore. They don't have a massive land war they're going to be fighting. Once they finished off, they had 40 aircraft carriers, 40 or 50 aircraft carriers by the end of World War II in Pacific. They disbanded most of them because you don't need them anymore because you're not fighting somebody who has a massive navy. So what happens here is you disband most of your navy if you're the Kaiser, and you need strong police forces in every single solar system. So you take what used to be navy and you turn it into police. All these people that used to be on these battleships, they would become police. So they would have like pacification weapons like, tear gas and billy clubs and pistols and, of course, rifles. So you double or triple the amount of police would normally be in these places because that's what you're worried about now. What you have to worry about now is a planet uprising. So you turn your navy into police. And then, like I said, you'd have smaller ships. You have a bunch of destroyers or corvettes or frigates or something in each one of these solar systems. You don't need the massive armadas anymore. So it'll be interesting to see if they do that with this show. Whoever wrote this is super smart. They know what the hell they're talking about. They know how things work. I suspect they will. I suspect that's one of the things you do. You got to transform your military to overcome the next threat. Then if you do get invaded by aliens, then you can transition again. But until then, because it's just not economical. He's talking about money and, not, bankrupting the entire empire. It's not economical to field a massive fighting force that doesn't have anybody to fight. The one thing that I love the Battlestar Galactica remake by Ron Moore, but one thing did not make sense. They had a massive navy and they had nobody to fight. The Cylons hadn't been heard of in 40 years. Nobody would justify the cost of that large of a navy. They had a huge navy. They had a bunch of Battlestars, a bunch of fighter pilots, a bunch of other ships. For what? They had I don't know exactly how many Battlestars they had, but like the original series, they only had 12 Battlestars. And they were in the middle of a war. Here they had like 20, 30, 40, 50 Battlestars. Hundreds of thousands of people are in their military and they don't have anybody to fight. And they only have 12 solar systems and all of them are on the same page. Nobody's rebelling against each other. It makes no economic sense to have that large of a military. Yes, they were worried about the Cylons, but they hadn't heard from them in 40 years. For all they knew, the Cylons had died out. They would have had a small piece of keeping force. It made no sense. So you got to keep that in mind. Again, like if you're a writer, if you're world building, governments are not going to waste money. Look at how the governments of today do not want to go and colonize Mars. Why? You want to spend a bunch of money on something you're probably not going to get a return on investment on. Governments are only going to spend on what they can get a return on investment on. Like, for instance, you have a land border with somebody you don't like, you're going to have a large military there in case they come at you. That makes sense. You get a return on investment on it. You can sleep at night. But if there is no enemy, you don't have a large force. So I don't want to talk at length about it. I'm just saying, like, that's one world building thing I hope that they actually get right. So I can't pronounce that dude's name. It's just, God, these German names are just brutal, man. But Ruthenthal, whatever, I'll just call him R. You know what I mean? Somebody is going to betray the Kaiser. Somebody's going to try to seize power for himself. I thought it'd be Oberstein, but Oberstein's been nothing but loyal. And he hasn't had much screen time lately in like the last 40 episodes either, right? So he hasn't been doing a whole lot. Meanwhile, R has gotten a lot of screen time. Just since I've started back from my hiatus, he's gotten a lot of screen time. So now I'm starting, okay, then it's going to be him, right? But man, if that is what's happening now, they haven't been very, subtle with their foreshadowing on this show. A lot of it's because it's written from a historical perspective, I get that. They haven't been very subtle. But this is a little, too unsubtle for me. If he's going to be the one to do it, wow, they just really tipped their hand. But man, I can't shake the thought it'd be him. But what about Blondie instead? If I was writing, I would make you think it's going to be R, but then it'd be Mittenheimer or whatever, Blondie, Blondie, it may be him. Either one's going to hurt the Kaiser on an emotional level. But we don't have much real estate left. We've got 23 episodes left, essentially. Give or take an episode or two. That's it. They can do a lot. They can do a lot in one episode, but is that enough time to actually have a complete coup? I think the series ends with Kaiser dying. And I think it's going to happen before the end of this year. I think he'll have a 2-year reign, and that's it. But yeah, I like the way this one ended. let's go ahead and get into the next one.